Hello, everybody. Welcome back. You are listening to See Through Panel, a comic book discussion podcast. My name is Cole Harvey. I am here with Fahed Rahman.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we're going to be talking about two different books, one book for each of us. I think I'll get going first. My book is Aquatlantic by Giorgio Carpinteri. It's an Italian name, so I hope I'm not messing it up. It is published by Fantagraphics Books. I only did a tiny bit of research here, but he seems to be a very classical, very popular Italian graphic novel creator, and this apparently came after a 23-year hiatus. So this would be his first work in 23 years, Aquatlantic. I have the actual hardcover here. It's only about 50 pages, a little bit less. There's a few things I need to mention. So there's cameos, as he calls it, where he has one panel done by three of his artist friends. So Charles Burns, which I think all of us are familiar with, does a panel in here. Igor, and then Lorenzo Mattotti. I'm terrible at any European name. So they're featured in here as well, but mostly the writing, the art, the lettering, the coloring, everything is Giorgio Carpinteri. So this book it's really strange. If you've seen his work, you should definitely look it up. It's very geometric and kind of pastel tone colors. It's very abstract looking. It's really like nothing I've seen before. Even his panels take different shapes, and he's very into kind of playing with the shaping of everybody. He likes, in some pages it's all hard straight lines, and other pages it's very soft wavy lines, and I think that works really well in the underwater theme of the book. So actually getting into it, this book is about our main character Bo, who is a actor in I guess it would be a comedy play in the underwater city of Aquatlantic. In this city, everyone kind of makes fun of surface dwellers while also even thinking that there may not be surface dwellers. It's kind of like a myth where pretty much all of civilization is underwater, and they don't really think too much about land-dwelling people. So that's kind of a big part of this book, and the main plot is that he is playing a character named, it's a very strange name, let me make sure I get it right, Ettore Patria, who is a surface dweller, and basically his whole role is to kind of play the bumbling buffoon surface dweller, reinforcing the ideas that these people have that everyone at the surface is kind of an idiot and they are the superior race of people. They are still all human. Like, they don't have fins or anything. They don't wear rebreathers. I don't exactly know how it works, but it's basically just an underwater city with a ridiculously beautiful architecture that Carpinteri does with that style. I couldn't even begin to describe to you what it is. You'd have to look up his art, but it is very abstract. And the main themes of this book, I think the artist Bo struggling to keep the character Patria inside, and Patria starting to bleed into his personality, and he'll even have, in a few places in this book, lapses in time where Patria is kind of taking control, and he'll wake up and he will have done something or said something, and Patria is kind of messing with him. And so we begin with Patria doing very inappropriate things to Bo's girlfriend or wife, and so she leaves him. So we begin like page 2 with him in a very emotional state. His girlfriend has just left him. He's got one show left, and then he can finally be rid of the Ettore Patria character, and he wants to be rid of it. But it's been very well, it's sold well. It's brought him a lot of popularity, so he's really fighting with that. And then the secondary plot that's also going on is a possible attack or discovery by the surface dwellers. So that's kind of our main two plots here, is there might be an imminent attack by these surface dwellers, and then also the more personal side of things, that Bo is kind of struggling to keep a grip on reality while Ettore Patria is taking control. So, I mean, it's a very short book. It's not too complex. I'm probably going to spoil everything in here.
I'm just having a look at the artwork, and it's kind of very Art Deco influenced.
Oh yeah.
What strikes me, it's sort of somewhere, like, in an odd way, kind of, because of the Art Deco influence, kind of just on a superficial level, it kind of sort of reminds me of Batman the Animated Series a little bit.
His figure work does kind of look like that, yeah.
curious kind of like art style, isn't it? It's kind of, I wonder. So yeah, sorry, you were saying.
Oh no, I definitely agree, and it's very absurd. Like it's kind of a theme when I read a lot of European graphic novels, like more classic ones like Jodorowsky or Now This or Mobius, that both the art and the dialogue and the plot, they all have this kind of not too serious tone where there may be some really intense things going on, but they're kind of done playfully, and it's all very witty. One of the craziest things in this kind of a world building thing that he does is there is our character, and I think I would assume every person in Aquatlantic has a turtle, a pet turtle that speaks to them just in plain English. They're kind of their advisors. They help them get through tough times. They kind of just a companion. But there's also the Oracle Zoe. It's like a giant turtle. We're talking like looks like it's like 15 feet around. And it acts kind of as a political figure or a religious figure. And they stick like red hot pins underneath its the parts of its shells, and it kind of like bleeds onto the shell and it creates an image, and this image is kind of like prophesied. So when they're worrying about the surface dwellers, they do this, and it creates an image of like men dropping from the surface into Aquatlantic, and that's like their main way to predict things and to deal with problems. And I thought that was really cool, if not super weird, and that's the kind of absurdity we're dealing with here. Yeah, and it's all very lackadaisical. Essentially, the two plots converge in a not so clear way. I think that what was going on is there's a surface dweller in a ship above Aquatlantic who's been trying to hunt for this city, for fortune and fame, trying to discover it. And he, I think, was controlling Bo in a sense in the Patria character. So the surface dwelling scientist is above water. I think, I don't know if this is right. It's not made clear. It's only made clear in the images, not the text. So I think he is controlling Bo. So he has Bo go to a museum and get a artifact from the surface, which is a pistol, and put it together. And so for his next and final act, he's going to draw the pistol and cause havoc in the crowd, which will then be the perfect time for the surface dwellers to descend on the city. But through the powers of this oracle turtle, or it's they.
Okay,
The,
so I get the kind of impression it's kind of one of those ones that you're gonna have to decipher, kind of like the meaning of the plot, and what actually happens is a little bit
yes,
unclear.
there's a lot of
Okay.
themes here, but it's not all very evident in the text.
Okay, and how did you come across? Was this not something that I'd heard of before? And was just reading some of the other reviews of it, on because it's published by Fantagraphics. Is that
Yes,
correct? Good reviews from Publishers Weekly, the Book Beat, Library Journal, and Sorad as well. Kind of, a lot of them mention the satirical nature, and
definitely.
it plays with ideas as well around what is and isn't real
Yeah,
as well. So that sounds really interesting. So how
yeah.
did that? Did you think it was successful in those explorations, or not? What did you think about that?
I think it was successful. I think it takes a few reads. I think I've read it 3 times now, but I mean, it's only 50 pages, so
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of things to dig into to examine. But it's mostly an inward kind of thing. You need to figure them out for yourself. You're not gonna, no matter how many times you go over these dialogue balloons or anything like that, it's not going to give you the answer. But yeah, for me, I think the heavy themes of the questioning of political power, the questioning of performance art, and kind of the impact on the artist, as well as, yeah, the whole thing is very satirical in the sense that no one is taking almost any of this seriously. They're cracking jokes while they like put these pins into the turtle. I think he even cracks a joke while he's drawing the pistol, which is kind of the climactic moment. And so it's all very absurd, and I tend to enjoy that a lot. I don't think I fully understood it. I don't know if you can fully understand it. I
Okay.
think it's a little bit of an individual thing. The art is just breathtaking. That is how I found it. I was just going through Fantagraphics catalog, and I saw the cover, and then I started looking into Carpinteri's art, and this was the only book I could like feasibly get from him. It's been
Yeah.
translated, and so I just grabbed it, and unique, very unique style.
Yeah, I mean it's quite expensive. I think it says like $20 for a 50-page or 56-page book is that's quite steep,
Yeah.
really. I don't want to ask you the question whether you think it's worth it or not, but did you think it's kind of like worth it for that?
I did. I mean, with Fantagraphics, I'm a big like collected editions guy.
Yeah,
I like physical media. I'm a relic in that sense. But uh, yeah, it's oversized. It's a nice hardcover. I think that's mostly what you're paying for, and also the the production of it's really nice. It has a nice afternote or afterword, and it kind of explains his thought process and what he was doing, and I found that very helpful. Yeah, I would say it was worth it. It's definitely not for everyone. If you're into like these strange Euro, a bit weird graphic novels that you're not probably going to fully understand, but they really make you think. That's what I like. I think it was worth it.
in an odd way from your description of it. I don't know if it's an odd way, but from the way you're talking about it, kind of reminds me a little bit about Donnie Darko. Kind of when people finished watching that movie, and there were kind of layers of trying to understand what was real, what wasn't real, and kind of it goes into a lot of discussions about the imagery and things like that. Do you think that's kind of a fair comparison to
I
make?
think so, yeah. And I actually hadn't made that comparison, but you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Donnie Darko is one of my favorite movies, and it is kind of a similar thing where nothing really is going to make sense upon first glance. And as you dig deeper, you may form your own ideas. But just like Donnie Darko, when I discuss it with my friends, you'll walk away with a completely different understanding than someone else may have gathered from it. And so there's a lot of open ended things there to discuss. And I think, judging by what Carpinteri says about his inspiration, it's a very it's a very vague inspiration. He was mostly inspired by images he saw on a BBC documentary of
Oh, okay.
undersea life. So basically, he was just inspired by some very pretty looking pictures from under the sea. And so that's a very that's a very open ended thing to write a story about. And so you just in an equal sense you can draw very open ended themes from it. And I haven't read any reviews because I like to read them after I do
Yeah,
the podcast, but I would imagine they all gathered very different things from it.
I can imagine. And you said this was his first work after a break of, did you say like 20 years or
I
something like
think
that?
I read like 23. I might be wrong on that, but
Yeah.
I think I read it was a 20-ish year hiatus.
So yes, that sounds just like for the price. I think so, as a physical object, is you kind of mentioned it's kind of quite a beautiful thing to behold. It's kind of like, did you say oversized, kind of like
Yep.
large scale edition? So is it a beautiful thing to kind of like hold and flick through and that sort of thing?
Yeah, the art is just staggering. Like I have probably 400 books on my shelves at this point, and there is pretty much nothing to compare this to. I can't think
Oh,
of anything to
that's
compare the art to.
really that's a big statement.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
a big statement.
it's
Yeah,
so strange. It's even the coloring is like I like to look at art and think like, was this done with a pencil? Like what was the I'm not an artist, but I like to
yeah.
guess, you know. I have literally no idea how this is done. I don't know if he's painting or using he could be using colored pencils. I have no idea how he did any of this.
Okay, that's fantastic. So I think that sounds like a recommendation from you for that one. Yeah,
Definitely. I would recommend it to anyone who likes a little kind of weird, whimsical, funny, strange kind of Euro thing like this. Yeah.
and I think we'll pop a link from our bookstore to that. So if you
Definitely.
do decide to buy it, you'll be able to kick us some money for it. So should we? Are you finished? Is there anything else you want to mention
Yeah, yeah. I
about
mean,
it?
I think I'm good. I don't even know what to say. I mean,
Okay.
look up Carpinteri's art, and you'll know what I mean. Basically.
Okay. My pick for this episode is Woman World. It's a graphic novel that I came across while I was visiting the library. So I'm quite fortunate in London. We've got libraries that have got quite good collection. Well, some libraries have got quite good collections of graphic novels. I'll read you. So it's Woman World. It's by Aminder Dhaliwal, and I'll read you the blurb. It's published by Drawn and Quarterly. It was published in 2018. And when a birth defect wipes out the planet's entire population of men, Woman World rises out of the ashes. And it's basically, it follows the process of a group of women rebuilding society, and they've kind of rallied together under the flag of Beyonce's Spies, which kind of gives you a rough idea of the humor of the book. And it's a very funny look at how so, how if something like this would happen, what would be kind of like, how would women reconstruct the world? So it's kind of the concept or the premise of Why the Last Man, but played for jokes, if that makes sense. I'll read a little bit about the creator as well. So Aminder is a native of Brampton, Ontario. She's received a bachelor's of animation degree from Sheridan College. She lives in Los Angeles, where she's written for Disney TV, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and she was named one of the top 10 animators to watch in 2020 by Variety. I really enjoyed this. It's available. So if you can't get hold of the physical copy, it's available on Webtoons for free as well.
Oh
So
wow.
if you go to Webtoons and kind of like type in Women's World, you should be able to find it find it there. I do believe there's extra material in the graphic novels. I think there's a few extra pages in there, and we've got a really interesting kind of like cast of characters that the kind of, but basically it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic society. There's a group, this group of women are trying to figure out a way of rebuild society and make sure humanity survives. So we've got Ulana, he kind of remembers society when men were still around. We've got Gaia, who's the leader of this particular village of women, and she walks around naked all the time. We've got the Doctor, who's just called Doctor. There's my favorite character probably is Amika. She's this young girl that has no memories of what men were like, so she finds like a DVD of Paul Blart Mall Cop, and and Ilana kind of lies to her and said, yes, yeah, all men were kind of like this person. And so Amiko's got these strange ideas of like, oh, all men were like Paul Blart Mall Cop. So it gives you an idea of kind of what the humor in the book is like. And it's mostly the art is, it is very webtoons, if you know what I mean. So it's mostly black and white with some some grayscale. There is colored inserts in the book that kind of separates the chapters out, but it is mostly in black and white. It's got very clean, clear lines. You can kind of tell she's got a background in animation, in terms of like the way she gets the characters to do, like to actually act, is really expressive and emotive. It's kind of, it's a strange book in a lot of ways because it's a webtoon. Even though there's an overarching narrative, a lot of the sections are kind of framed to be read in like a webtoon format, where it's kind of, yeah, each page each 2 or 3 pages is its own self-contained chapter, a gag at the end of it. And there's a lot of funny dialogue within the book. There's one particular section where one of the girls has got a crush on another girl, and she's spying on this girl and their girlfriend, and she's kind of imagining what the dialogue that's going on between them, and she's kind of imagining that they're kind of the breaking up. But then,
Mm.
the two girls that she's spying on actually end up kissing, and that she still is kind of like, saying words out loud to the effect of, I never want to see you again, sort of thing. So it's kind of like, it's very droll, it's very funny. It's got a real it's got a lot of humor in there. I would say there's a lot of meme worthy strips in here as well. So it's just kind of the thing that you'd share on like Twitter, kind of these 1 or 2 pages, just to get to get your friends to laugh at it as well. But there is kind of quite a lot of poignant bits in there as well, because they're, one of the overarching themes in the book is, okay, without men, how do we propagate human life? And they talk quite a lot about women's duty to be a mother, how, the process of trying to kind of reproduce kind of like asexually, what that means for kind of like individual rights and the family unit and all that sort of thing. There's one character that decides she's ready to be a mother, but when she's told what the process for it's going to be, she's like, "Oh, sack that! I can't be bothered." It sounds like a lot of hard work, so she just decides to stay in the village. So I really enjoyed it. It's even though it's about 300 odd pages, I think part of that is a byproduct of the fact that it's an adaptation from a webtoon comic. So I think like with webtoons, you can kind of scroll through from one page to the other, and kind of it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to hear from people that have read both to see if how different the experience between those two kind of versions of this story are. So I really enjoyed it quite a lot. It's got a great cast of characters, fantastically witty dialogue, humor. It's got silly humor, it's got deep humor, it's got puns, it's got slapstick. One of my favorite gags in it is kind of they go to the city to kind of explore and see how society's collapsed, and they come across an old blockbuster that's completely decrepit. And kind of, I can't remember the year that the story's set, and I think it's like 2063. They go the blockbuster in 2020, 2063, and then the blockbuster in 2004, and it's just exactly the same panel. So it's kind of like lots of kind of like jokes about, oh, you're looking back and trying to see how society was back then, and kind of it's not always an accurate assumption that you have about things that were happening back then. So it's kind of a lot of themes around that area as well.
Okay. I'm interested in this because I have a few questions. So
Yeah.
you're adapting a webtoon. So then, is there a pretty small amount of panels per page? I would imagine.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, there is. There's not kind of you don't get. Yeah. That's actually pretty accurate. I'm just flicking through the book now, and kind of it's maximum maybe 8 panels per page.
Okay.
So usually it's between 3 and 5 panels per page,
Okay.
and kind of there's a few singles page spreads. So you don't, sometimes in graphic novels you get that double page spread. There's not a lot of those in here at all, because I think with the webtoons you've got that vertical scrolling thing going on, so you don't really use that if you've got vertical scrolling to have that double page spread.
Interesting. This style looks, honestly, the last few books we talked about last time as well. I think you were talking about some comedy books, like the one about the two men golfing. This
Yes.
reminds me that this is like the best way to do comedy in comics is like pure cartooning. Very
Yeah.
simple lines. There's not too much to distract you from the joke, and it looks it looks very. I love the color when she does do color. I don't know how often it is, but the color looks awesome on the cover, and like these inserts I'm seeing just looking it up.
Yeah.
It almost makes me wish that it was colored, but I get why.
Oh,
Obviously.
I prefer it uncolored. I think it just makes it things. I mean, there is. I won't ruin the gag, but there is one gag that requires the panel to be colored, and that gag wouldn't have as much effect if the rest of the comic book was colored in. So just for the sake of that one gag, I'm glad that it's not been fully colored. In a strange way, kind of the art sort of reminds me of Peanuts and the old Charlie Brown comics as well, especially kind of the shape of some of the characters' heads are kind of very circular or very geometric in shape.
Yeah, this style looks great. I've been looking at it on Webtoon now. I might just read the whole thing on Webtoon.
Yeah.
So you got the physical copy, right? So it's a
Yeah.
paperback then?
Yes, it's a paperback, and I got it from the library. It's a nice enough book to kind of read through. Fortunately, the copy that I've got, because it's a library copy, some of the pages have fallen out, so I'm gonna have to wrap some rubber bands around it before I return it to the library, and hope they can fix it. But yeah, it fits nicely on the shelf. It's not oversized or anything like that. I would say that there is some female nudity in the comic. It's not sexualized in any way, but there is kind of like boobs and butts and stuff like that. Yeah, especially because one of the main characters, Guy, does walk around naked all the time.
Yeah,
Well.
it looks pretty safe for work though, and
Yeah.
it's just done in a very what's the word, innocent way.
Yeah, it's not it's not like overly sexualized or anything like that.
That looks great. The Paul Blart thing really kills me. I read that's like I think the first page on Webtoon, and I just glanced at it. Yeah, that's it's actually perfect for. I haven't read a lot of drawn and quarterly books, but they usually do like a kind of slice of life thing, and this seems like it's pretty perfect for them.
I think that's a pretty much a really good description of it. It is a post-apocalyptic slice of life about a post-male society. So yes, I'd say that's a really apt, because a lot of the strips are about kind of like how did they do kind of like everyday tasks, and it's a lot about the personal relationship that the characters have with each other. This kind of like romantic subplots, plots about like listlessness as well. Kind of like some of the characters don't see the point in kind of like doing anything in this kind of like apocalyptic. We shouldn't use the word apocalyptic. We should use post societal collapse, because after the apocalypse there is nothing. So
it implies zombies or something. It sounds more intense than it is.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I really enjoyed it. But buy the book if you want, or kind of read it for free on Webtoons as well.
That sounds great, man. That's, I think, 2 strong recommendations. Maybe yours is a bit stronger because mine's just a little confusing. But 2 recommendations there, definitely.
Yeah, cool. So I think that's all I really want to say about that one. I'll see if I can get hold of Aquatlantic in the UK. When I was looking online, it was way too expensive for me to kind of like justify buying like a 60 page book for kind of that price. I'll see if I can find it for cheaper somewhere else. I'm not too sure what book we're going to be doing next, but we'll have a look, and we'll let you guys know on social media. Guys, if you could please support the podcast by leaving a rating, a review wherever you're listening to this too, and if you can leave a tip through the tip jar in the link of the episode description, and kind of follow us on social media as well.
All right. Yeah, Fahed is very, very active on our Instagram, so he's pretty much in charge of that, and he does a great job. So there's always something interesting to look at on there.
Yeah, cool. And we're going to be probably taking a break over Christmas at some point, so we'll let you know. We might post some kind of like old episodes in the feed, or kind of like maybe like highlights of previous episodes. But we'll try and keep you entertained over the Christmas holidays as well.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. Thanks, Fahed. It's been fun.
Okay, cool. And we'll see you in a week. See you guys. Bye.